started Zapier, we had a pretty good idea that what we were building was needed because integrations had been around for a while. It was something that was listed on most SaaS apps site somewhere. Salesforce had their App Exchange, Basecamp had an extras page. These sorts of things existed. We knew that if we could build it, there would be a market for it. But we weren't really sure, I guess, if we could execute on it quite in a way that people would like, or if we could deliver it in a model that folks would love. And I think the thing that made me realize, no, we got a good shot at this was the very first customer we had. I cold emailed Andrew Warner, who is, fairly popular in a set of the internet. He runs the site Mixergy. He had posted on a Stack Exchange, webapps.stackexchange.com, asking about a PayPal high-res integration. And so I cold emailed him and said, did you ever find a solution to this? And he said no, but he'd actually moved on. But he opened up a window for me and said, were you working on building this? And I said, well, actually, yeah, we're working on building that. But more broadly, we're working on building something that connects a handful of different applications. We want to automate a whole bunch of different integrations. And Andrew at the time said, oh, I actually need something that does Wufoo to Aweber right now. Can you do that? We didn't have a Wufoo Aweber integration at the time, but of course I said, yes, of course we can do that. And so we built it, and I remember Andrew being super excited about what we had built. And I just remember thinking, wow, this is first at bat, we hit a home run, and thinking this is amazing. Because I tried to start other stuff before that, and the wins were never that easy. It was much, much harder than that. And so to be able to kind of have a hit right out the gate just was this is going to be different than the other things I'd tried.
So the way we developed the idea for Meet Edgar was kind of unusual. Before I started this business, I was doing training, social media marketing training for small businesses. And I had developed a methodology, a workflow for social media marketing, which was treat your social content like a library, put it in different categories, put all those categories in a spreadsheet, and then repurpose your content. So maybe you have inspirational quotes, they're all in a column, you cycle through them. So at the time, this involved a lot of manual labor with copying and pasting from the spreadsheet to the social media tools. If you have an image, you're screwed, you don't know what to do with it. And so I was doing this, I was teaching this, customers were doing this, and I was kind of complaining to my husband, Chris, about how much work this all took and why don't the social tools do this? And he's a Ruby on Rails developer. So he was just like, well, I could build that. And so I was like, great, build it. And that's really how the company came about. And so for us, we didn't do any of the lean startup idea validation stuff. The validation was, okay, people are paying just to learn this process. So people will probably pay to have software just do it all for them. So that was our hunch that we were onto something. And then once we launched that turned out to be true. People were happy to find a solution that handled this.
I knew I was onto something when during the development of the app, it quickly became my favorite way to design the app itself and everything else that I was working on at the day job. So it was really fun to use and much quicker than what I was using before. And so it was a good feeling. I built it because I couldn't find a tool that was satisfying for sketching user interfaces. And while building it, at some point, it became clearly good, very good for that. So I knew that was, I think, the first signal that what I was building was going to be exciting. Then after that, there were other ones, like the people in my beta really had great feedback and they started using it. And then after that, we had sales right away. So it was a series of confirmations coming one after the other.
So Ghost started with a blog post at the end of 2012. And at the time, it was really just this idea that I'd had sitting around in my head that seemed far too obvious and not particularly innovative to me. So I kind of repressed it for a long time. And eventually, the idea just wouldn't go away. So I did a couple of designs, mock-ups in Photoshop, and put together this blog post just talking about how I would build a modern publishing platform if I was going to start over from scratch. And at the time, it was kind of, what if you rebuilt WordPress today with modern technology, took away all of the bloat, and just made it really, really nice. And it was really a place to scratch my own itch. I didn't have any grand plans particularly, but when I put it out into the world and expected, a few of my friends on Twitter to reply and say, hey, that's a pretty cool idea, what actually ended up happening was it hit the front page of Hacker News, the front page of everything else at the time, and racked up 250,000 page views in the space of a week. And I had never had that much engagement that quickly and that emphatically from such a large group of people. And so as my inbox started overflowing with requests for this thing to actually exist, I realized that this is what traction actually is. And I always say it's kind of a bit like true love. You don't really know it until you experience it, and then it's glaringly obvious. So it was it started out really as a pipe dream, I would say. And it came into reality through sheer demand of people wanting it.
When we started Mansion, we were actually giving away the product for free at the beginning. So it was a freemium approach. And we clearly understood that there was a need for it, as people were just sharing the product like crazy to friends and to other people. So rapidly, the number of signups and the number of monthly active users were growing fast. It was still for free, but it told us, we learned that way that we were onto something.
Olark came out of a consulting company that I was running while I was going to grad school. And that consulting company started off as a web hosting company. So I've been kind of doing business stuff on the side while going to school for a long time. The thing that sort of stuck out about Olark when we started it as a side project from our consulting company was it started to grow on its own. So like we were out there building this free live chat product that was called Abla. And the idea was like, hey, why are there so many businesses online that aren't using chat? Back when we were running that web hosting company, chat was so important to us, and now it's like 7 years later and no one's using chat. Like, why is that? And the premise was, it's too hard. Like it's really set up for these people with call centers. And so we thought, hey, let's make it really, really easy. Let's like cut every objection that we could have made back when we were, adopting live chat as high school students, and just make it really easy for any business to add live chat. So we created this really, really simple MVP. And we went out there at forums and we found people asking, like looking for live chat solutions. And we'd say like, hey, we're working on this free product. Like if you're interested, take a look. And so the moment I think we realized we were onto something was when I met someone in person that knew about Abla. I don't remember exactly how he heard about it, but he did have it installed on his website. And the other thing that was neat is we were growing on our own. So like we, to this day, I would say we've really sucked at like traditional marketing. Like our marketing has always been about word of mouth marketing and keeping our customers really happy.
I think there were two moments. The first moment was before I started, or I was considering to start GitLab, and I thought, I'm not going to build something. I'm first going to ask whether there's interest and do the minimal thing. So what I did was to show Hacker News, do people want to use GitLab as a service? And the only thing I created was a landing page where you had to leave your email address. And it didn't trend, so I was disappointed. Went downstairs to bake pancakes, and I checked the homepage of Hacker News one last time, and there it was, trending. So I told my girlfriend, who's now my wife, like, Karen, can you please finish baking the pancakes? I have to go up and start replying. And I stayed there the whole night, ate those pancakes behind my desk, and we had hundreds of people sign up for it, and that was really cool. And the second moment was after a year. GitLab.com wasn't doing that well, but I was getting all these emails from people that said, I want this feature or that feature in GitLab. And those were not individual users, those were huge Fortune 10 corporations using GitLab. And that was something like, wow, I can't believe they're using GitLab too. We're onto something.
We started off with the free beta system. I think that when we were getting, thousands of users in the period of the first kind of 3 months that we launched this thing for free. That was an indication. Then we actually launched it, and we got to around $10,000, $50,000 monthly recurring. Then it really felt like we could grow it into something bigger. At that point in time, we were still kind of growing at like small numbers, like $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month, that kind of thing, which is, takes a long time to build up at that rate. But we still knew that it was possible. Along the lines of, having like 200 to 300 paid customers, which was at that point, that was like $3,000, $4,000 MRR. It wasn't necessarily that we were growing at a certain amount. It was more along the lines of, okay, we have, as long as you have paying customers, and you've got them in the hundreds, I mean, that's enough for us to really know that, hey, we obviously can expand this.
I first knew that we had something big, just at the concept level, like we were saying, because I went to business school, I have been equipped with these frameworks for opportunity analysis and industry evaluation, and this is my second greenfield startup, so I've been used to sort of the idea and sanity checking the idea at an early stage. So it just, at a high level, sort of theoretically seems both incredibly obvious and incredibly large as an opportunity. And that dovetails with my personal interest, which is like my additional layer on top of opportunity analysis, which is just like, what do you like? Like, what are you interested in genuinely? And I'm interested in sales. So it sort of passed that test. The first time I knew we actually had a big business here was when our recent hire, Paul Lackey, who was a marketing intern until I asked him to be a sales guy, who 3 months before that graduated from Boston University, closed Box as a customer with very little involvement from me. And so here's this kid just fresh out of college, whip smart and hardworking, but like very, very junior, wet behind the ears, walks into the office with a contract from Box. And I'm like, oh, okay, this thing actually might work.
We actually launched with the smoke test website. We didn't have a product at first. We had a landing page that explained what Printful was to another customers from another startup we have, Startup Vitamins. And from the email list we sent to Startup Vitamins list, there was already much interest in Printful products, so we knew we had to build this product. So smoke test showed that there's interest, and after 4 months we built the product and actually used feedback from the sign-up forms. We had a survey there to build the product. When we started Startup Vitamins, we wanted to do t-shirts. T-shirt printing machines are expensive. The ones we started using are $25,000 start. Now we're using ones that cost $200,000 or more. So we outsourced it initially from another company, another dropshipping company, but they didn't have API. It took about 10 days for them to fulfill an order. The interface was bad, built on top of WordPress. So naturally we figured out we can do much better than that. Like the companies that were around at that time were not good enough. So we just scratched our own itch and built a product we actually needed ourselves.